Hi guys, welcome to week 4 of our online mythology classes. We're still in our Micmac legends, and I think we're going to be here for a while because it's a long list of stories. So if you are able to, with where you are, grab some paper and a pencil or a pen or something to draw with. So you can either draw what we're reading about or draw whatever you want to while you listen to the stories. All right, so this week we're starting off with a story called Moon the Bear's Child. So let's hear about this Moon character. Now, in the old time, there lived a boy called Siko, whose father had died when he was a baby. Siko was too young to hunt and provide food for the wigwam, so his mother was obliged to take another husband, a jealous, spiteful man who soon came to dislike his small stepson, for he thought the mother cared more for the child than for himself. He thought of a plan to be rid of the boy. "Wife," said he, "it is time the boy learned something of the forest. I will take him with me today hunting." "Oh, no," cried his wife. "Siko is far too young." But the husband snatched the boy and took him into the forest while the mother wept, for she knew her husband's jealous heart. So she's letting her son go hunting with her husband, even though she knows the husband hates the son. Doesn't seem like a great idea to me, but let's see what happens. The stepfather knew of a cave deep in the forest, a deep cave that led into a rocky hill. To this cave he led his stepson and told him to go inside and hunt for the tracks of rabbit. The boy hung back. "It is dark in there. I am afraid." "Afraid?" scoffed the man. "A fine hunter you'll make." And he pushed the boy roughly into the cave. "Stay in there until I tell you to come out." Then the stepfather took a pole and thrust it under a huge boulder so that it tumbled over and covered the mouth of the cave completely. He knew well there was no other opening. The boy was shut in for good and would soon die of starvation. The stepfather left the place, intending to tell the boy's mother that her son had been disobedient, had run off and got lost, and he had been unable to find him. Oh, geez. He would not return home at once. He would let time pass as if he had been looking for the boy. Another idea occurred to him. He would spend the time on Blomidon's beach and collect some of Glooscap's purple stones to take as a peace offering to his wife. She might suspect, but nothing could be proved, and nobody would ever know what had happened. Nobody? There was one who knew already. Glooscap, the great chief, was well aware of what had happened, and he was angry, very angry. He struck his great spear into the red stone of Blomidon, and the cliff split. Earth and stones tumbled down, down, down to the beach, burying the wicked stepfather and killing him instantly. Then Glooscap called upon a faithful servant, Porcupine, and told him what he was to do. In the dark cave in the hillside, Siko cried out his loneliness and fear. He was only 6 after all, and he wanted his mother. Suddenly, he heard a voice. "Siko, come this way." He saw 2 glowing eyes and went towards them, trembling. The eyes grew bigger and brighter, and at last he could see they belonged to an old porcupine. "Don't cry any more, my son," said Porcupine. "I am here to help you." And the boy was afraid no longer. He watched as Porcupine went to the cave entrance and tried to push away the stone, but the stone was too heavy. Porcupine put his lips to the crack of light between boulder and hillside and called out, "Friends of Glooscap, come around, all of you." The animals and birds heard him and came. Wolf, raccoon, caribou, turtle, possum, rabbit, and squirrel, and birds of all kinds from turkey to hummingbird. "A boy has been left here to die," called the old porcupine from inside the cave. "I am not strong enough to move the rock. Help us, or we are lost." The animals called back that they would try. First Raccoon marched up and tried to wrap his arms around the stone, but they were much too short. Then Fox came and bit and scratched at the boulder, but he only made his lips bleed. Then Caribou stepped up, and thrusting her long antlers into the crack, she tried to pry the stone loose, but only broke off one of her antlers. It was no use. In the end, all gave up. They could not move the stone. Okay, so quick recap. I think this one is worded in a way it's pretty easy to follow along what's happening. But just to recap, the father closed the son in the cave, put a huge boulder in the way, and then Glooscap saw all of this happen, and he was really mad. So he used his magical powers to have like this huge avalanche of rock fall down on the stepfather and kill him. And then he sends Porcupine to go help the boy get out of the cave. And Porcupine is able to lead him to the entrance, but he can't move the stone. So he calls out to all the other animals who are friends of Glooscap to come help. And all of them try, but even Caribou, who's huge and strong, is not able to do it. So they give up. Kwai, a new voice spoke. What is going on? They turned and saw Moonsquo, oh geez, which means she-bear, who had come quietly out of the woods. Some of the smaller animals were frightened and hid, but the others told Moonsquo, yeah, okay. Just so you know what I'm trying to pronounce here, at the end of Moon, it just has the letters SKW. Not sure how that's supposed to be pronounced. I'm just going to call them Moon because. So the others told Moon what had happened. She promptly embraced the boulder in the cave's mouth and heaved with all her great strength. With a rumble and a crash, the stone rolled over. Then out came Seiko and Porcupine joyfully. Porcupine thanked the animals for their help and said, "Now I must find someone to take care of this boy and bring him up." I mean, he still has a mother, right? Okay. I guess they've decided she is too neglectful to raise him. I don't know. My food is not... Okay, so Porcupine's still talking. My food is not the best for him. Perhaps there is someone here whose diet will suit him better. The boy is hungry. Who will bring him food? All scattered at once in search of food. Robin was the first to return, and he laid down worms before the boy, but Seiko could not eat them. Beaver came next, with bark, but the boy shook his head. Others brought seeds and insects, but Seiko, hungry as he was, could not touch any of them. At last came Moon and held out a flat cake made of blueberries. The boy seized it eagerly and ate. "Oh, how good it is!" he cried, and Porcupine nodded wisely. "From now on," he said, "Moon will be this boy's foster mother." So Seiko went to live with the bears. Besides the mother bear, there were 2 boy cubs and a girl cub. All were pleased to have a new brother, and they soon taught Seiko all their tricks and all the secrets of the forest. And Seiko was happy with his newfound family. Gradually, he forgot his old life. Even the face of his mother grew dim in memory, and, walking on all fours as the bears did, he almost began to think he was a bear. One spring, when Seiko was 10, the bears went fishing for smelts. Moon walked into the water, seated herself on her haunches, and commenced seizing the smelts and tossing them out on the bank to the children. All were enjoying themselves greatly when suddenly Moon plunged to the shore, crying, "Come, children, hurry!" She had caught the scent of a man. "Run for your lives!" As they ran, she stayed behind them, guarding them until at last they were safe at home. "What animal was that, Mother?" asked Seiko. "That was a hunter," said his foster mother, "a human like yourself who kills bears for food." And she warned them all to be very watchful from now on. You must always run from the sight or scent of a hunter. So you know what? I think we've actually heard this story before, but this is a different telling of it. So some of you that take the mythology class, this is probably starting to sound kind of familiar, with a boy being raised by a mother bear and has bear siblings. So those of you that remember that story might know what's coming up. We'll see if it has the same ending. So she warns them all about hunters and that you must always run when you smell one. Not long afterwards, the bear family went with other bear families to pick blueberries for the winter. The small ones soon tired of picking, and the oldest cub had a sudden mischievous thought. "Chase me towards the crowd," he told Seiko, "just as men do when they hunt bears. The others will be frightened and run away. Then we can have all the berries for ourselves." So Seiko began to chase his brothers towards the other bears, whooping loudly, and the bears at once scattered in all directions. All that is, except the mother bear, who recognized the voice of her adopted son. "Offspring of Lox," she cried, "what mischief are you up to now?" And she rounded up the children and spanked them soundly. Seiko too. I love that expression. Offspring of Lox. We should all start saying that. Let's bring it back. So the sun crossed the sky each day, and the days grew shorter. At last, the mother bear led her family to their winter quarters in a large hollow tree. For half the winter, they were happy and safe, with plenty of blueberry cakes to keep them from being hungry. Then, one sad day, the hunters found the tree. Seeing the scratches on its trunk, they guessed that bears were inside, and they prepared to smoke them out into the open. Moon knew well enough what was about to happen, and that not all would escape. I must go out first, she said, and attract the man's attention, while you two cubs jump out and run away. Then you, Seiko, show yourself and plead for your little sister. Perhaps they will spare her for your sake. And thus it happened, just as the brave and loving mother bear had said. As soon as she climbed down from the tree, the Indians shot her dead, but the two male cubs had time to escape. Then Seiko rushed out, crying, I am human like you. Spare the she-cub, my adopted sister. The amazed Indians put down their arrows and spears, and when they had heard Seiko's story, they gladly spared the little she-bear and were sorry they had killed Muin, who had been so good to the child. Seiko wept over the body of his foster mother and made a solemn vow. I shall be called Muin, the bear's son, from this day forward. And when I am grown and a hunter, never will I kill a mother bear or bear children. And Muin never did. With his foster sister, he returned to his old village, to the great joy of his mother, who cared tenderly for the she-cub until she was old enough to care for herself. And ever since then, when Indians see smoke rising from a hollow tree, they know a mother bear is in there cooking food for her children, and they leave that tree alone. Thus, the story ends. All right. That was a pretty good story. I think it ended a little differently than the other one we read like this. If I'm remembering correctly, the other one, the mother wasn't there when the hunter caught up to the cubs. But she died in this, and that's pretty sad. But I guess there's the optimistic looking to the future of how he takes on her name and then vows to never kill bears. And okay. Still sad that she died, but she gave her life for her children, which I'm sure is what she would have wanted. All right, so that is Muin, the bear's child. Now, next up, we have Nikumi and Fire. All right, if it will load. So what did you guys think of that story? Like I said, I liked that one. It had a good flow, and the way it was worded, it was really easy to follow what was going on. That's not the case with all of these stories, but that one was pretty easy to follow and entertaining. All right, let's read about Nikumi and Fire. One cold autumn morning in a low valley, a great gray stone sat covered with dew. The rock was very old and had sat there for many, many moons. It had seen the passing of many animals and many seasons, but this day, as Niskam heated the rock, and the dew rose as a mist from it, Niskam decided to give life to this rock. So, as the rock grew hotter and the steam from the dew hovered over it, this one old rock was given the body of an old, old woman. This was Nikumi. Okay, so it was either last week or the week before, we read about, I think in that one she was Nakomi. It was like slightly different, but the same person. So let's see if this is the same one. Hold on. You know what? Looking ahead, it is the same story we already read a few weeks ago. It's just another telling of it, and I'm not seeing any huge differences. So I think we're going to skip over this one and move on to Of Glooscap and the Three Other Seekers. Okay. So we've been hearing a lot about Glooscap. He crops up a lot in the Micmac legends. So I guess it's good that we had the creation story last week and the week before, where they kind of did a rundown of all of the main creation characters, which Glooscap is one of them. And let's read about him and the three other seekers. Now when it was noised abroad that whoever besought... Okay, this sounds like we're in the middle of a story. which some of these kind of are like that. We'll read something and be like, I feel like we missed something. And then later we'll get to the story that kind of is the first half of that. This starts kind of abruptly, so I think it might be one of those. Now, when it was noised abroad that whoever besought Glooscap could obtain the desire of his heart, there were 3 men who said among themselves, "Let us seek the master." So they left their home in the early spring when the bluebird first sang, and walked till the fall frosts, and then into winter, and ever on till the next midsummer. And having come to a small path in a great forest, they followed it till they came out by a very beautiful river, so fair a sight they had never seen, and so went onward till it grew to be a great lake. And so they kept to the path, which, when untrodden, was marked by blazed trees, the bark having been removed, on the side of the trunk, which is opposite the place where the wigwam or village lies, towards which it turns. So the mark can be seen as the traveler goes towards the goal, but not while leaving it. Okay, so these 3 guys, I guess that, I don't know, I'm wondering if in the part of this story that I think we're missing, if it talks about what the desire of Glooscap's heart is, but whoever, oh, no. Whoever besought Glooscap can get the desire of their heart. That's what it is. So these 3 men are looking for Glooscap so they can get the desire of their hearts. That's what's going on. Okay. And they come to, they're walking through for like a long time, for like a year, through all these different seasons. And they follow this river to a big lake. And then they have this path that has a bunch of trees that the bark's been removed on one side, so that when you are going towards one direction, you can see it, but when you're going away, you can't. Then after a time, they came to a long point of land running out into the lake, and having ascended a high hill, they saw in the distance a smoke, which guided them to a large, well-built wigwam. And entering, they found seated on the right side a handsome, healthy man of middle age, and by the other a woman so decrepit that she seemed to be 100 years old. Opposite the door, and on the left side, was a mat, which seemed to show that a third person had there a seat. And the man made them welcome, and spoke as if he were Weleda asit kesegvu, well pleased to see them, but did not ask them whence they came or whither they were going, as is wont among Indians when strangers come to their homes or are met in travel. Ere long they heard the sound of a paddle, and then the noise of a canoe being drawn ashore. Okay, so they've come to this home, and there's a man and a really old woman, and he's being polite to them and seems pleased to see them, but he's not asking them any questions about where they came from or where they're heading, which is pretty common for people to do when a traveler comes through. All right. And there came in a youth of fine form and features and well clad, bearing weapons as if from hunting, who addressed the old woman as Keju, or mother, and told her that he had brought game. And with sore ado, for she was feeble, the old dame tottered out and brought in 4 beavers, but she was so much troubled to cut them up that the elder, saying to the younger man, "Uokin, my brother," bade him do the work. And they supped on beaver. So they remained for a week, resting themselves, for they were sadly worn with their wearisome journey, and also utterly ragged. And then a wondrous thing came to pass, which first taught them that they were in an enchanted land. For one morning the elder man bade the younger wash their mother's face, and as he did this, all her wrinkles vanished, and she became young and very beautiful. In all their lives, the travelers had never seen so lovely a woman. Her hair, which had been white and scanty, now hung to her feet, dark and glossy as a blackbird's breast. Then, having been clad in fine array, she showed a tall, lithe, and graceful form at its best. Yeah, the power of good hygiene, right? Okay, so they're there for a week, just kind of hanging out. And then one day, the older man tells the younger to wash the woman's face. And when they wash her face, her wrinkles come off and her white hair becomes long, glossy black hair. And she has like this beautiful young form now. So, man, the power of washing your face. Everyone, wash your faces. And the travelers said to themselves, "Truly this man is a great magician." They all walked forth to see the place. Never was sunshine so pleasantly tempered by a soft breeze, for in all that land was fair, and it grew fairer day by day to all who dwelt there. Tall trees with rich foliage and fragrant flowers, but without lower limbs or underbrush, grew as in a grove, wide as a forest, yet so far apart that the eye could pierce the distance in every direction. Now when they felt for the first time that they were in a new life and a magic land, he that was host asked them whence they came and what they sought. So they said that they sought Glooscap. And the host replied, "Oh, I am he." And they were awed by his presence, for a great glory and majesty now sat upon him. As the woman had changed, so had he, for all in that place was wonderful. Okay, so when their host, the middle-aged man, finally gets around to asking them, okay, where did you come from and where are you going? They explain, oh, we're looking for Glooscap. And they've been there for a while now. And I guess they never asked who their host was, because when the host hears that, he says, oh, hey, that's me. I'm Glooscap. And when he says that, he takes on like another presence, and they can see that he is like Glooscap and of like a higher power of magical and whatever. So yeah, they found what they were looking for. Then the first, telling what he wanted, said, I am a wicked man, and I have a bad temper. I am prone to wrath and reviling, yet I would fain be pious, meek, and holy. You know, that's a really great heart's desire, because that's what they tried to find Glooscap for, so they could achieve their heart's desire. And the first one, in telling Glooscap what he wants, he says, I have really bad temper, and I lose it often. I want to be meek and holy. So he's kind of wanting to like change his heart to be less angry, which is really great. I hope he gets it. And the next said, I am very poor and my life is hard. I toil but can barely make my living. I would fain be rich. Okay, so the second one says, I want to be rich. I'm poor. I want money. Now the third replied, I am of low estate, being despised and hated by all my people, and I wish to be loved and respected. And to all these the master made answer, so shall it be. Okay, so the first guy who's staying with them, he wants to change his angry heart into a meek, pious heart. The second one is poor, and he wants to be rich. The third one, people don't really like him. They hate him, and he wants to be loved and respected. So those are the three different heart's desires of these men. And Glooscap says, so shall it be. So they all get their desire. And taking his medicine bag, he gave unto each a small box, and bade them keep it closed until they should be once more at home. And on returning to the wigwam, he also gave to each of them new garments. In all their lives they had never seen or heard of such rich apparel or such ornaments as they now had. Then when it was time to depart, as they knew not the way to their home, he arose and went with them. Sorry, I lost my place. Now they had been more than a year in coming, but he, having put on his belt, went forth, and they followed. Till in the forenoon he led them to the top of a high mountain, from which in the distance they beheld yet another, the blue outline of which could just be seen above the horizon. And having been told that their way was unto it, they thought it would be a week's journey to reach it. But they went on, and in the middle of the afternoon of the same day they were there, on the summit of the second mountain. And looking from this afar, all was familiar to them, hill and river, and wood and lakes, all was in their memory. And there, said the master, pointing unto it, there is your own village. So he left them alone, and they went on their way, and before the sun had set, they were safely at home. Okay, so they've been gone for a year, and they don't know how to get home now that they've gotten their heart's desire and they found Glooscap. So he says, okay, I'll show you the way. So he takes them to a mountain and says, okay, you got to go to that mountain. And so they go, and they think, okay, it'll take like a week to get there. It takes them like a day. They get there later that day. And once they're at the top of that mountain, they can see, oh, we recognize all of these surroundings. And the master, Glooscap, points out, there's your village right there. And they get there by evening. Yet when they came, no one knew them because of the great change in their appearance and their fine attire, the like of which had never been seen by man in those days. But having made themselves known to their friends, all that were there of old and young gathered together to gaze upon and hear what they had to say, and they were amazed. Then each of them, having opened his box, found therein an unguent, rich and fragrant. And with this they rubbed their bodies completely. And they were ever after so fragrant from the divine anointing that all sought to be near them. Happy were they who could but sniff at the blessed smell which came from them. Okay, so the boxes that Glooscap gave them and said, don't open it until you're home. They open them when they get home, and I guess there's some sort of like, we'll say it's like a lotion or a cream or something that they rub all over their bodies, and it smells so good, and it makes them smell good forever, not just right after putting it on. Makes them smell so good that everybody wants to be around them. Because everybody wants to smell them, which is kind of weird, but okay. Now he who had been despised for his deformity and weakness and meanness became beautiful and strong and stately as a pine tree. There was no man in all the land so graceful or of such good behavior. And he who had desired abundance had it in all fullness, his wish. For the moose and caribou came to him in the forest, the fish leaped into his nets, all men gave unto him, and he gave unto all freely, to the end. And he that had been wicked and of evil mind, hasty and cruel, became meek and patient, good and gentle, and he made others like himself. And he had his reward, for there was a blessing upon him, as upon all those who had wished wisely, even unto the end of their days. The end. Okay, that was kind of a fun story. I think the part that I'm going to remember most is just that everybody wants to smell them. It's just kind of funny to me. I know. What do you guys think of this one? Yeah, it was an entertaining one. There were a few parts where it got a little confusing, but yeah, they go find Glooscap so they can get their heart's desire. They stay with him for a while. They do get their heart's desire, and then after a year of traveling and being gone, they come back and nobody recognizes them. But they tell their story and everyone's amazed. And then they have their good smelling stuff they put on that makes them smell good and everyone wants to smell them. And then the three men get their desires. The one who wanted to be kinder and meek and patient, he does. And he strives to help other men become like him as well. And the one who wants to be rich does. It sounds like he still works, which is good. He still goes hunting, but the animals just like come to him, jump into his nets when he's fishing and stuff like that. So he doesn't even really have to try for it. And he gives unto other people freely, which is good, because I think a lot of the time with stories where people wish to be rich, it changes them and they become people that you don't really like. But in this one, he had everything that he wanted and he shared what he had with others, which is good. And then the one who people didn't like, he became beautiful and strong and stately, and so other people liked him. All right, that's a cool one. All right, let me see. I don't think we'll have time for another story today, so we'll end there. We only had the 2 stories today. So we had Moon the Bear's Child, and then the one we just read, Glooscap and the 3 Other Seekers. They were both pretty good. I don't know which one I like better. Which one did you guys like best? I liked the Bear's Child one, but it had that sad ending with the mother being killed. The Glooscap one was really entertaining. I was expecting, like in a lot of stories, where the ones with what seemed like the more selfish wishes for it to backfire, but it turned out well for everyone. They got what they wanted, and they still were like okay people, which is great. All right, next week, we've got a few more Glooscap stories. I don't know how many more times he'll crop up. He's all over these stories in the Micmac tribe. So the next one we will be reading next week first is Of Other Men Who Went to Glooscap for Gifts. Okay, so I'm guessing it will be somewhat similar to the one we just read, but I guess about different men who went to seek Glooscap so they could get their desire. And then we've got another one about Glooscap making great works in the land. So we will read those ones next week. In the meantime, I hope you guys stay happy and healthy, that you're doing something to entertain yourselves. Art center here, so I'm always going to recommend that you create somehow to keep that sanity. And wash your hands, be careful. I hope you're all doing well, and hang in there. Hopefully we'll see each other soon, and I'll be back next week with some more videos for mythology and music. Bye guys.